See, I know Elon well enough at this point, not because we're friends, but because I've been dealing with him and Tesla for so long, that they don't understand that this is the most competitive person I have ever known. He will die before Tesla will fail.
Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And today we're talking to Ross Gerber. You're going to want to see this coming up next on In Depth.
Thank you to Keeps for sponsoring today's show.
Keeps is a subscription service that makes it easier and more affordable for men to treat their male pattern baldness online.
2 out of 3 guys will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time they're 35.
I am living proof of this, and the best way to prevent hair loss is to do something about it while you still have your hair left.
With Keeps, you'll get a free online consultation with a licensed doctor who will recommend the right hair loss treatment plan for you.
Keeps offers clinically proven generic versions of the FDA-approved medications for hair loss, which makes it more affordable.
If you're looking for real results, you owe it to yourself to check out the testimonials on the Keeps website.
Find out why Keeps has more 5-star reviews than any of its competitors and why hundreds of thousands of men trust Keeps for their hair loss prevention.
If you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/nowyouknow or click the link in the description to receive 50% off your first order.
Don't put it off. Go to keeps.com/nowyouknow. All right, we're so lucky to have Ross Gerber with us today. He's the president and CEO of Gerber Kawasaki. And before we get started, a lot of times Jesse and I say on the show, we are not financial advisors. We're just 2 dudes on the internet. You are a financial advisor.
Yeah.
What does that mean, being a financial advisor?
Mostly it means that I'm licensed, so I had to pass securities exams, bonded, insured, and I'm regulated, which is really the big thing. So we're regulated by the SEC, and so I am required, actually, I got to do more of it after I'm done with the show, to do lots of documentation, filings, every stock we own, every account, every dollar's accounted for. I've been in the business now on my 28th year, I think it is. And I've never had money disappear or a problem. But you got to count every one of our $2.2 billion and make sure it's in the right place every day, and transactions and what people are saying. And it's just an endless thing. So when you're a financial advisor, what that means is you follow, and we're a fiduciary financial advisor. So that means that I have to do what's in my client's best interest by law. A lot of people don't realize that they're working at brokers like Robinhood or Merrill Lynch or Goldman Sachs, for example, has no requirement to do what's best for their clients. In fact, it's the opposite. It's a conflict of interest. The broker's trying to make money for themselves. And ideally, they do what's right for you, but they have no obligation. Okay. So as a fiduciary, that creates a legal standard that we have to follow, which is quite, thorough. And we follow it. We take it very seriously. So with that in mind, whatever we're going to talk about today, has risk, and investing has risk. And so as a financial advisor, one of the most important things we do is help people understand their risk tolerance and what investments are best for them.
So I guess it's better that we're just 2 dudes on the internet. We don't do any of that
so
paperwork.
much easier.
Well,
Wow.
no, you can still go to jail for the same issues
Right.
if you're offering securities without a license, for example. SEC busts non-licensed people too all the time. Insider trading. It could be a lot of different things, especially if you're on YouTube, touting cryptocurrencies that explode or things like that. If you lose people's money, and whatever you do, somebody's going to come after you.
Now, the reason we're talking to you, we've been following you for a long time. You're a big Tesla guy. You're in the Tesla community. People love you. What is your background? I mean, when did you first get into Tesla?
Well, I started driving when I was 16, and I immediately was pulled over on my first day on the road. So I knew I would have a future in vehicles right off the bat because I fought that ticket in court at 16 and beat the police. And I went on to a lucrative career of getting tickets and beating police in court, winning 15 tickets in a row. And I knew that I was destined to be a driver.
To either be a lawyer or to be...
I got pulled over the other day in my Plaid, for example, going very fast, 0 to 60, but I did not go over 60. And my kid was in the car because they very much enjoy this. I said, "Kid, watch me talk my way out of this ticket," which I did. With an Orange County sheriff. It was amazing. I said, "I never broke the speed limit, sir. I just got there very quickly. And I don't think that that's illegal." And he's like, "I thought you were racing that Ford." I go, "I would never race a Ford in this thing. What is wrong with you?" So I've always loved cars, and I don't love the car business from the traditional dealer standpoint. But when the Tesla Model S came out. So Tesla went public, and it was about a year or two after that, the Model S came out. And that's when we started really looking at Tesla. And so I hate oil companies, and I grew up in the 70s as a little kid. My first memories are the Iran oil embargo on my mom. Like, I was this little kid, and my mom would try to get gas, and you could only get gas every other day. And my memory was because my mom had to lie to get gas that day. We were out of gas, but it wasn't our day. It was like even or odd. I don't know if you remember that, but
Yep.
Your partner doesn't remember it for sure. He's like, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
Gas guzzling car. You're in line at a gas station. And at the time, gas prices were the inflation equivalent of probably 3 times the price of today. So that's kind of the irony of everybody complaining about gas prices. In the 70s, they wiped us out, and the economy went into hell. The stock market was hell. And I grew up hating the oil producing nations, not only for what they did to the nation, but also for the wars that they caused. So when I went and I saw the Model S and I said, this is an electric vehicle. And then I drove this thing and I was like, and it's better than regular vehicles too? Like, that was really the thing. It wasn't that it was just electric. It was that it was actually better than other cars. And I said, we got to invest in this, So we bought stock in Tesla. I think it was 2014. And we were fairly aggressive with it, which was the good and the bad of it, because if I didn't sell any of my shares.
You're one of those guys, huh? You sold some.
Well, I'm not going to complain. It's made me very wealthy.
You made some money.
Yeah, right.
You made some money. Yeah.
I'm a risk manager. Like some of my Tesla friends who have like, I got 1,000 shares of Tesla. That's all my money. I'm friends with this guy, Jason DeBolt, and he made a lot of money on Tesla, and he's kind of retired now. And, and he just was all in. Some of these people were just all in. That's just not the way I live, But when we made a lot of money, I took profits, and I've taken profits in Tesla several times, and I don't regret it because we risk manage. But in 2014, the investment paid off pretty quickly, because once the Model S started selling, it sold well, and the stock jumped from, at the time, it was like 35 to like 180. And that first stage of Tesla was a lot of fun. But from the beginning, most people don't remember that Teslas have had problems and struggles and challenges this entire journey. Model S, all the roofs were messed up, and they would have to re-put on each roof. The Model X was a disaster at launch, with the doors. Like, who would come up with these dumb doors? Elon says it was probably the worst idea he's ever had, right? And then Model 3, I was like, what could go wrong? They've screwed up S, they screwed up X. At this point, they got this down, and no, they did not. He was going to build this robot factory, and it turned out humans were better. So Jerome Guillion saved them and put humans in to build cars. This journey has been one of the most amazing stock journeys of my life, and I still think it's early on in the journey. So Tesla has become our biggest investment, it is my most profitable investment of all time. It's kind of made us famous in the sense of, like, as an investment firm, because we did make several $100 million off Tesla for our clients. And so it really did change many of our clients' lives in the positive way. And I had this one client, and they had like 5 accounts with me. And I accidentally bought the Tesla in their kid's UTMA account. It was an accident, because they had all these accounts with me. And so we balance it, like, as a family, but I didn't realize I put the Tesla in the kid's account. Well, now the kid's 18. And this kid has over $1 million now. And the parents are like, what the did you do to us? So the kid calls me up like, thanks. This is like 8 years later. It was like a little kid is now 18 years old. And she's like, wow, I'm well off thanks to you guys. Will you help me manage my money? I'm like, yeah.
All right. Well, I want to talk about money managers who have had the opposite experience as you, the short sellers who I'm assuming are being called up by the children of the people and are going, what did you do with our money?
You don't put a short seller fund in your kid's account.
What happened and why was short selling?
Why is it still the most shorted stock?
It's still the most shorted stock in the world. Can you just, I kind of get it.
Yeah, it's like, how many podcasts can we do and they still don't listen, right?
I'm really curious. Like, I just want to, if we could try and put ourselves in their shoes.
I literally had this meeting this morning. People in my office hate Elon. They hate him.
Why?
I'm trying to get some rest. And then it's like Washington Post starts calling, CNBC starts calling. Oh, Elon sold more stock. Who cares?
Right.
And people are like, stock's going to be down today. Oh, I'm going to lose money because of Elon. I go, you forgot we're all rich because of Elon, guys. Like all of us. Like that was my speech this morning.
Except the people who have just got on board last week.
No, but I'm saying in my firm, my partners have all gotten wealthy because of Tesla. And they hate Elon. They hate him.
But why?
I'm not a traditional guy. I'm a hippie. This outfit, it's for you. It's for the public. I'm a money manager. But I don't think inside any box, that's for sure. So people like Elon don't bother me at all. I work in the music industry a lot, and I work with crazy people. So Elon to me is just this genius guy, and if you expect normalcy with a genius, you haven't been around that many geniuses. Now, I went to Penn, and I was around some very smart people in college. Like a lot of people bash on the Ivy League and all this kind of, but the people I was around, my friends, were brilliant. And like many of them have gone on to incredible careers in all kinds of fields. But like it was super invigorating as a person just to be around such smart people, but they were all crazy. So there's crazy smart people, and then there's like regular smart people who are like finance people or engineers. So finance people and engineers are just as smart as, let's say, creatives or other type of entrepreneurs, let's say, who are, so it's maybe like right brain, left brain intelligence. So Elon's really engineering intelligence, but he's real bad with like emotional intelligence. And so that's what people hate about him, is that he means well, but he oftentimes does a lot of things that people hate. Like say he wants Ron DeSantis to be, like, why would he support Ron DeSantis? So somebody as smart as Elon saying something like that, he shouldn't be in politics. And he never was before. He never said anything before until Biden finally pissed him off enough. But it hasn't helped Elon being in politics. The short sellers see this as this, he will implode opportunity. He will funding secure something again, or he will eventually make that mistake that will blow up Tesla. And so a guy like him has to crash the boat at some point, is basically the short seller's bet. And they weren't wrong in 2018. So in 2018, I did many interviews saying, if you look at the financials of Tesla, it's going bankrupt. But that's not what you should be looking at. What you should be looking at is that production's ramping, and Elon left himself about that much room between bankruptcy and success. I remember the day because I went up and I was with Gene Munster and a couple other people, and we were like, Elon, you need to raise money. Elon, this was like Autonomy Day, the first one or something. And we're like, Elon, you need to raise money. And it was like, I think at the end of 2018-ish. And then he did a convertible the next day. And that's when I knew for sure he was way smarter than what anybody thought, because we were all like, dude, you're running this so thin. And he did this convertible, and it was the most advantageous convertible bond offering. I bought a ton of it. It's ended up being the bane of my existence, which for a whole other reason. But like, we made so much money on this bond. It was like 10, 15x on this bond. Wow. Because we doubled down. When he raised money, I was like, if they have the capital to do this, they'll be fine. But see, he runs the ship so lean that he gave himself no room for error. And so what those people are hoping is that he just slips and falls on the ice and goes right through it and into the water and freezes and dies. And somebody like Elon on the surface looks like he could do that very easily. But those are people who don't know Elon. See, I know Elon well enough at this point, not because we're friends, but because I've been dealing with him and Tesla for so long, that they don't understand that this is the most competitive person I have ever known. He will die before Tesla will fail. That's how you know if Tesla will fail, is he'll be dead. He'll be the first. He's the general that will die in front of all the troops first before Tesla will fail. For sure. That's why I won't sell my Tesla stock. And it is still my largest holding, because I've never met a CEO like him.
Well, a lot of people like you want to buy even more stock. But the big question I think for them constantly is this the right time to buy? And with us being in a recession and Elon saying there's 18 months more maybe of recession, what would you say? Should we be waiting for some other dip? Should we buy it now? Like, what are your thoughts?
There's no recession. There's no recession. It is so busy out. We have 3.5% unemployment. You can't look at these GDP numbers. They don't mean anything. What matters is spending. How many people want to buy a car right now? Can't even get one. Even if you go to a Ford dealership, they're marking up cars. The dealers are screwing people. Okay, that's not a recession. where every car is sold. Tesla sells cars that cut inflation. The demand is off the charts for their vehicles. You'll never pick the right time to buy a stock or Tesla. You invest for the long term. And timing markets is, after 29 years, is impossible. Everything I always think is not per se incorrect, but the timing of it is extremely difficult to get right. And when you do, it's lucky. If you really think you're that good, then you're probably not that far away from losing a lot of money. So the way I do it is I just dollar cost average. So if I want to buy Tesla, I just got a new client the other day, he gave me money, Tesla's our top holding, I got to buy him Tesla. So I don't just buy the whole amount. Let's say it's a 5% allocation, okay? I don't buy all 5%. No, I'll buy 1% this week. Then I'll wait another week or two, buy another 1%, and I dollar cost average because the stock is so volatile, but I'm not buying Tesla for the next year. That is the easiest stock to buy because I don't have to think about selling it. So what I try to do is buy stocks that I don't have to worry about selling. I buy Microsoft, I don't have to worry about selling it. Buy MGM, don't have to sell it. Blackstone, don't have to sell it. What I got to sell are when companies don't execute. So I look at Roblox. I'm a Roblox owner. Oh, Roblox numbers are bad. I look at the numbers are fine. We're not in a pandemic anymore. I make my kids go play baseball now. They're playing plenty of Roblox, trust me. But it's not as much. But we're forcing them to not play Roblox. It's not because they don't want to play. It's there are kids without COVID out there. You go play with them. I think my family has some weird COVID thing that we just don't get it. Everybody's gotten COVID except for us. I'm go play with all the COVID kids. You're fine. You're fine.
Now, I saw in one of your recent shows that you put a 100x earnings price determination on Tesla stock. So that would price it probably around $1,200 right now.
Right.
Have you factored in things like full self-driving or Tesla bot into that 100x?
No. In fact, that doesn't actually factor in the business. What that factors in is the growth rate of the company's earnings, okay, which is over 100%, but will slow down next year. I think they're predicting 40% growth year over year and I think that's wrong. I think it'll be higher. So we look at PEG ratio, which is your PE to growth ratio, is one of the key metrics I use in valuing a company. First, you have to determine what's real E, what's the real earnings of a company, because there's a lot of bull crap in earnings, they take out stock compensation. I don't, okay? I'm a stock owner. If my employees of my company are getting paid in stock, that's a real cost. So I don't buy this, take out the stock compensation that every company tries to do. It's real money, okay? So I look at what we consider real earnings, okay? And then we look at the growth of that earnings over the time, but also what we expect it to grow in the future. So a lot of companies maybe aren't growing as fast today, but maybe are doing some things that will really help them grow into the future, okay? And then we look at, the market's PE. Is it high or low relatively to the market? And then we want to assign a PEG ratio to that. So if it's under 1, that's really good. That's a stock we want to buy. If it's 2, which is a lot of stocks in the stock market where the growth, Apple, PE is twice its actual growth rate because it's Apple. Now, it used to not be that way, years ago, and it was the Tim Cook discount back in the day. It was at 17 times earnings, they could buy back stock all day. It was profitable for them. So for Tesla, it would make sense for them to buy back stock if the stock was at $600, right? But at, $1,000, it doesn't. And so we could argue what the peg should be with Tesla because their growth rate has been over 100% over the last several years of earnings, but it's a big company now. So even if you do a 50, PE towards next year's earnings at $16, you're still looking at $800. And I would think that's a very conservative number. So I'd say anywhere between $800 and $1,200, that's where the stock should be.
So, but let's talk about Tesla bot. So basically, it sounds like you're not factoring that in yet because, it's not a thing yet.
Doesn't exist.
It's a thing, right? So you'll only factor that in, I'm assuming, once it's an actual product that's
should I factor in, the Roadster revenue now too that I've been waiting for 5 years? I mean, Elon even said it.
2 weeks.
He's like, full self-driving is coming this year.
Yeah,
I swear. And he laughed because it's just he says it every year. But once again, and this is one of my favorite new quotes of mine, which is optimism isn't a lie. Optimism isn't a lie. It's a miscalculation. It's different. I'm the same way. I always think this is what I think we should do. If we come up short, which is most of the time, that's normal because I think big, And I would rather have a guy who thinks real big and comes up short than the people who think small and doesn't do anything. You know, we got that with Tim Cook, right? He's real good at making chips, but new products, nothing.
Right. Well, it's almost always hard to hit goals.
Well, it should be.
You know, it's always hard to hit goals. So just set the goal bigger. And then you would have hit the, you know, like, because people will always almost hit the goal. It's almost like a mental thing. You're like, oh, it's really close.
No,
Or maybe
you're so right.
did hit the goal. Okay, but if you had set the goal to twice as much as what you would have done, you probably would have done twice as much. You know, so by saying 2 weeks or by saying this year, I completely agree with you.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that. Like, let's say you were going to try to run a marathon, right? Like,
Right.
That's a huge goal. If you're like, my goal is to run a marathon, most people look at you and go, that's fun. You know, good luck with that. And then people do it. And it's like, wow, that's amazing. But if you look at people who actually run marathons, it's a really methodical process of training for a marathon for a long period of time. And basically anybody can run a marathon if you train for it correctly. Right. And if you actually go to the marathon in LA, it's like 25,000 people running or walking it. Most of them are unfit. It's unbelievable. Like, I'm in way better shape and I can't even come close to running a marathon. So it's all mental what you set as your goals. And as a manager of people for my entire career, we used to laugh at the people. Some people set goals that are so high they're unachievable just to try to impress people. And then it's just like you're a fool, you know? And then some people set their goals exactly what they know they can achieve because they want to achieve them and meet their goals, okay? But big thinkers are somewhere in the middle there. They're not just saying it so their manager is happy. They actually believe it, but it should be out of reach a little bit. Maybe not Mars, but how about the moon, you know? And so what you're saying is very true. Like in the way our brains and our bodies work is our brain limits us from achieving many things. And I train this a lot with people in my company. And I try to apply it myself. Like there's just this mechanism. It's like, oh, that's too risky. You know, oh, you don't want to do that. It's like your comfort zone box. It's your risk box. And that's a survival instinct from like when we were apes or whatever, where it was like, oh, you know, we don't want to get eaten by the woolly mammoth. You know,
don't go in the cave.
Yeah, bad idea, bad cave.
It might be good shelter, but there might be a saber-tooth tiger in there. That.
The consequences were big if you failed on those days. Modern society's consequences are much smaller. That's for sure.
Yeah. You can't go bankrupt when you're in the maws of a saber-tooth tiger.
Right. And I think that's part of it. There's financial risk and there's physical risk. And you think about like a fireman, like there was a fire the other day and the fire people were going, and I just find these people to be amazing because the risk is so high and they do it for like nothing, you know, like it's some like industrial fire for some warehouse. I'd be like, screw that, let it burn to the ground. They'll build a new one. It's profitable. Yeah. You know, firemen run in, they're trying to save some old building. I'm like, these guys are taking huge risk, you know, that's physical risk, you know? And then there's financial risk, which is the guy who invested in the building. The building burns down. He has insurance. He's like, that sucks, but I got insurance. And so it's like, why limit yourself in your career investing? You know, like I'm going to buy Procter & Gamble and Exxon because that's what's doing well this year. You know, it's like my fund's getting its butt kicked like the first half of the year. Well, we don't own oil, right? We don't own Procter & Gamble. We own discretionary, technology, and climate, right? You know, it's like the three things that get hammered, of course, right after I start a fund. But that's good news if you're a buyer, right? So I've been buying my fund all the way down, now coming back up. But I'm thinking about next year and I'm going, boy, well, inflation's coming down. People discretionary comes back. Technology comes back. Valuations come back. We're going to kick butt. So like if you're not willing to take financial risk and invest for growth, you're never going to make a lot of money because if you're holding Exxon and Procter & Gamble next year, you're going to go back to making 2% a year. And that's actually Exxon's return over the last 5 years is zero. Now you compare it to Tesla, one of the highest risk stocks in the world, right? Or Microsoft or whatever. And you just can't compare them. They've outperformed by enormous amounts. So these are outlier years. This is a total outlier year to have spike inflation of 8%. When does that happen? So we're going to go back to 2%. Don't worry. We're an old society with lots of old people. Growth will slow dramatically as it will because we need low rates to keep the economy going. And so the Fed's actions are working.
Now, speaking of risk, I mean, Jesse and I love disruptive companies. We have a whole channel about disruptive investing. What are some disruptive companies that you're excited about?
Besides Tesla, I assume.
I mean, yeah.
Well, yep, we could talk about Tesla all day. And I know.
Well, because they're disrupting like 5 areas. So you can be like, oh, we've got robots, we've got full self-driving, autonomy. So let's talk about autonomy real quickly.
Yeah.
Autonomy is the second area that I'm super focused on because like good investing is not just about making video games, which is entertainment, which is great. And I invest in entertainment and we all need entertainment. It's 5-10% of our time though. Good technology solves real world problems like dying. And in LA, every day people die driving and horrible deaths. Another horrible accident happened this weekend. Horrible and totally preventable. Okay. Humans are bad drivers. Humans have more distractions in a car than you can imagine. And there's no question that full self-driving or version or any level of safety technology that's added to cars using these types of technology will dramatically improve our lives. Now, I have 2 little kids and my only fear, I'm not worried about school shootings and all that BS that the media sends us. I'm worried about cars. I'm worried about a parking lot and a guy backing into my kid. And sure enough, yesterday we're in the parking lot. This guy backs into some other guy's car. I say, see kids, never walk behind cars in the parking lot because people don't pay attention. Mm-hmm. I literally, that is my biggest fear, you know? Like I'll leave my kids in the house by themselves. They're 8 and 10. What are they going to do? Roblox themselves to death? No, no. But in a parking lot or walking down the street, like I'm more scared of them riding their bike down the street, you know? Yeah. And so autonomy is a great goal, not just because it's great to drive and not have to worry about it, because it will save thousands of lives. So full self-driving is only one solution. That's the way I look at it. And Tesla will succeed in it. But I also look at the LiDAR-based systems and the Google-based systems and the Apple-based systems and the GM-based systems and the Chinese-based systems. And I go, one of these guys is going to get it right too. And I do think there's a case for LiDAR, and I do think that Elon may or may not be right about it. I met Austin Russell at Luminar, and I spent a whole afternoon with him. And see, when I call people and they are like, hey, Ross, come on over, ask me anything, I'll show you everything. Like, those are the kind of people I want to invest in. When I call up companies and they're like, who the f*** are you? I don't have time for you. And I'm like, well, I'm the most visible investor in the world. If you want to be on YouTube or, you know, or me say anything good about you, like let me in the door. But there's always a reason and it has nothing to do with me. It's like, they don't want to hear my questions. So it was like Nikola. So Trevor reached out to me early on because he was trying to recruit Tesla people to be Nikola people. I said, Trevor, love to come out and meet you. Love trucks. Love to see you build an EV truck because I support all EV companies, including Ford. If they want to make trucks, I'm all for it. Kind of fallen in love with that Lightning, to be honest.
Yeah, we're getting one in a few weeks.
Oh,
yeah.
dude, it's sweet. I was with one this weekend and a Rivian. And boy, for half the price, Ford is doing a great job.
That's what I'm excited. And the power delivery too.
I mean, I can't even say that I'm looking at Ford stock because people start yelling at me. You can't buy Ford. I go 5 times earnings, great EVs. I like Jim Farley. Yeah, they got dealers. Yeah, they got debt. Yeah, they got all these problems. All right, they talked me out of it again.
Good, because I was going to try and talk you out of it too.
I come in, I go, I'm buying Rivian, talk me out of it, and then they talk me out of it. You know?
Yeah, it's a little pricey. Yeah.
Yeah, and they got to make these trucks in scale.
they got to make profit on the truck.
Yeah, so Luminar is an interesting company. It's rallying today. You know, I like BYD. I think that they are doing some really interesting things in China. I think China is all in on EVs and autonomy, and America should be taking note of this and working very rapidly to get our technologies up with companies like Luminar. I think we're going to see a mass adoption of these technologies over the next 5 years. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in LiDAR-based systems, the software-based systems, the chip-based systems. Like now you got NVIDIA down. I mean, who sells this stock? Only dumb people sell NVIDIA. This is one of the best, most profitable companies I have ever owned. I started with NVIDIA when it was just a little graphics card company. I met them at E3 like years and years and years ago when it was like graphics cards. Wow. And the guy from NVIDIA booth was like, let me show you. Once again, he took me in, showed me everything. And then I saw some presentation that they did for CES. This was like 5 years ago. And I was like, autonomy, chips, I'm in. And we were in NVIDIA. It's been one of our best performing investments forever. So this pullback, it's had it a couple times, 50% pullbacks. It is a huge opportunity. So you've got chip-based system. We just added on semiconductor as well that has moved into this area, sensors, power systems. So cars are just going to be these massive chip and like technology pieces, because what I learned at Tesla is building a car, anybody can do it. We've been doing it for 120 years. What we're building are mobile technology pieces, and they need lots of things like chips. So, great opportunity right now with the pullback in chips. I mean, just insane, because this is part of building autonomy. So when you think about technologies that have the most utility to society, have tons of profitability, super, super innovative and intelligent companies and people working on it, that's where we want to invest. And so I spend a lot of time in those areas also because they're super fun and interesting to learn about. And that's part of my process, is I like learning. And so I've been learning a lot. And, when you sit around with a guy like Austin, who's in his 20s and he's a genius, he's super smart. And it was just really, really illuminating to spend an afternoon with the guy and know who he is. And boy, he's like a little Elon, super motivated. He's all in on his own stock. He's all in. And he's 29.
I think that's a huge advantage that you have over most analysts, is that you go and meet these people and talk to them. And like that gives you a completely different feeling for a company when you get to meet the leadership. We feel that when we get to talk to CEOs and founders as well. It's just it's not the same as reading their financial reports.
Yeah. All those people reading financial reports, silly.
Yeah, exactly.
You invest on
it's the who, not how. Yeah.
You don't invest in the Lakers because you're investing in LeBron.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you don't like LeBron, the Lakers aren't a good investment. You could say, oh, I love the Lakers. They've been great forever. But look at the difference between Ballmer and Satya Nadella. Never owned Microsoft under Ballmer. He was a goof.
Developers.
Nadella takes over. This guy is the most competent CEO I think I've ever seen. He's unbelievably good. That's what matters. Now, I haven't spent time with him, but I have actually my relatives work at Microsoft. So one of my secrets, it's not a secret, is I talk to lots of people who work at the company, the CEOs, but even more so if I can hang out with these people, get to know them, that's even better. Like, are they married? Are they nice? Are they fun? Are they really just shady people? And I grew up in LA, so I have this thing where if you're shady, it just like I can tell. It's like when you grow up in LA in the entertainment area of the world, everybody's shady. So I'm pretty questioning when people start telling me stuff. I'll meet these people. So, for example, Alec Gores is a friend of mine now, and he is the guy behind Luminar, and he's the guy behind Polestar. And like, he's like, come over to my house. I'll ask me any question. Here, meet all the executives. I've met everybody from the CEO of Volvo to the CEO of Polestar. I've gone through their strategy. I've met every division head. I literally, that's how much time I put into this stuff. And you can look at the financials all you want. They have no financials. It's a brand new company. Right. But I know their whole strategy and their whole team, and they're phenomenal. And that's what I spend my time doing. And so I own teams. That's the way I look at it. And like my team at Apple and Tim Cook, yeah, they're not the most exciting team, but they deliver. And then you got Tesla, and these guys are like just amazing. I love the team at Tesla. I love going to Tesla. It's like it turns me into like a different person spending a day at a factory at Tesla. Like you go to Austin, you'll be so motivated by the time you leave because the team there is so inspirational. The vibe is so awesome. And if you don't go, you don't understand. And if you've never run a business, how do you analyze a business? See, isn't it weird that analysts have never run a business before?
Yeah, exactly. Or that they're so siloed that they're in like, I'm an auto analyst and I'm analyzing Tesla. Like,
I'm an auto analyst. You don't know anything about technology because you literally studied companies that are bad at technology.
Right.
Well, it's like in college, you have the professors who were in the field that they're teaching and those that weren't. And you're just like, I can learn so much better from this guy who like spent 20 years working at DuPont,
Well, yes and no. I don't want to discount academics because I work with academics too, in the sense of like, I'm on the board of the UCLA Anderson School economics forecast, and they put me on because I'm the most economists they have, and they wanted that, because they're like the straight up academic economists. But where I think a lot of the academics fail is in understanding people. And that's where investing is really about, because when things get tough at Netflix, the reason I bought the stock is I know Reed Hastings and Ted Sandros are going to make it work. Those guys are just amazing. They're the best team in Hollywood by far. Everybody wants to work with them for a reason. Okay. So when things got bad at Netflix goes down to 175, I'm a buyer because they'll fix whatever needs to be done. They'll fix it. So there's the financials behind, is a streaming business a good business? And the academic side of like, is this a growing business in the valuations? And then there's the, I'm investing with people, because if I buy Luminar, which I haven't yet, they don't have earnings yet and they won't for a little bit of time. So they have to deliver, but it's a $8, $9 stock too. So if it could go to 80 if they deliver. So Tesla, unfortunately, at $800 is going to 8,000. So if you want to make a lot of money, you got to find newer companies like Arcimoto at $3.
Well, yeah, I want to talk to you about that. Actually, they're on my to-do list to talk to you about. I'm a big fan of Arcimoto. I just went out there to Oregon and got to see everything, probably like you do. And I just came back super pumped. And I think they're really cheap right now. I can't imagine that they're at $122 million market cap company.
You like what you saw at the factory?
I liked what I saw, coming down the pike, and I like the fact that their ramp is a much bigger factory and so forth. So, I mean, I just feel like a company like that, it's doing something completely different in the EV space. It's this, oddball vehicles, right? That don't, three-wheeled vehicles, but it has a lot of reservations. A lot of people are excited about them. And so I feel like there's a lot of demand in the rental market and so forth. And so, yeah, what are your thoughts about a company like Arcimoto at $3?
So, we own it. It is in my fund as well. And I own it personally. And the reason being, a lot of people get caught up on things that they're not used to seeing because they don't know what the future is going to look like. So they are very comfortable with the way the past looks like. If anybody tells me a Prius is a good looking car, anybody tells me a Chevy Bolt is a good looking car, there's a lot of ugly cars on the road right now. Now you can tell me your version of what's pretty or ugly. Okay. Fashion has lots of brands. There's going to be lots of different electric vehicles, but the biggest issue that prevents people from getting an electric vehicle is price. A Tesla is $60,000, $70,000. It's $60,000 or $70,000. There's no cheap electric vehicle. A Polestar is $60,000. The Ford Lightning is $60,000, $80,000. You can't get a Mach-E, $50,000, $60,000. For a lot of people, that's about half the car market, can't afford it. Those are the people who need EVs the most because they're the most affected by inflation. So the lower your income, the more inflation hurts you. So the more an EV would help you. And what I keep telling people is if you could buy an EV for $20,000 that actually worked, like got a lot of mileage, like Arcimoto gets 100 miles. Okay. It's not some Prius with 20 miles of charge. And the Arcimoto goes at 60, 80 miles per hour. I took it on the freeway. It's scary. Like, I'm like, dude, this thing hauls, Yep. But if I'm an Uber driver, I'm working at Uber Eats, why would you not have an electric vehicle? So military bases, for example, spend a fortune on gas and servicing these crappy little vehicles they drive around the base. This is like just that alone. They could sell tons of vehicles. So I think between rentals, because when you go to Hawaii, they're opening up a place in Waikiki right now. You go to Hawaii, you rent the worst gas guzzling cars and you pollute one of the most beautiful places that's most affected by climate change. Hawaii has been pounded by climate. And I love it there. It's one of my second places I live for. I go once a year and I love it. But boy, I go to the North Shore of Kauai and I've been in a hurricane, the only hurricane I've ever been in. And thank God it kind of missed. It was the scariest thing I've ever seen. Like trees getting like ripped out of the ground. I was like, I'm from California. We don't have that. Earthquakes are like fun compared to a hurricane, So Arcimoto has a great future if they can scale. It's the same thing I say about every EV company, Rivian, Polestar scaling pretty well. But if you can scale, you will succeed. So people will get over these three-wheel vehicles when they say, oh my God, I can buy it for $20,000, never not pay for gas. And now I'm paying $200, $300 a month to drive around total. Then you throw autonomy into these things too, boy.
So we just got a Rivian and it turns a lot of heads. And then we were thinking we're on high up on the list, like number 20 to get the Cybertruck. So we were thinking that's going to turn a lot of heads. What is your thought on when Cybertruck hits, hopefully next year?
That will be the most talked about and impactful vehicle that they've launched.
You think just Tesla or any vehicle ever?
Ever.
It's going to be like War of the Worlds, like when they did it on the radio.
No, the only one that might be similar is when the Hummer came out. Everybody was talking about it. It was like a big deal because it was so outrageous, but it was never really a scalable vehicle and it was like a nightmare. But like everybody was like Hummer, and then Schwarzenegger got one. It was like people bought Hummers. It was like dumb.
But they couldn't go 0 to 60 in the speed that the Cybertruck's going to do.
I think with the Cybertruck, once again, as we talk about the way the future will look versus what people are comfortable with the past. Many people say the Cybertruck is the ugliest thing they've ever seen. People said that about Warhol originally too. This guy's all whacked out stone painting weird Marilyn Monroes, you know? It's like, actually, it's the most beautiful Marilyn Monroe I've ever seen, you know? And they're like, you're high, you know? And it's like, maybe true, but this is amazing, you know? And now it's a $75 million painting, right? So the future, as I said earlier, will not look like the past. And the people who define what the future will look like will always be attacked, because wagon trains were freaking awesome and trains were a nightmare. Trains going through your town, they're putting the tracks, all these greedy rail barons. But boy, it was a lot easier to get west and a lot safer. You know, I talk about the transition away from horses because I love horses, and I'm still depressed about that horses, you know, don't have the same utility that they had, because I love the animal. And if you think, it was the first renewable transportation. They feed off hay and they poop it out into manure. It's like super efficient, and they did everything for you, you know? So between horses and cows, boy, there would be no America, right? But then the rails come around, gas comes around, and now they're just sitting outside in a little pony rides and stuff, you know? And it's sad. But that's what happens to all these vehicles in the future. So the Cybertruck's the future. That's what the future's going to look like. If you want the past, you buy the Ford Lightning. The Ford Lightning is the past, and it's electric. The Rivian's somewhere in the middle. So there's a market for everybody. There will be plenty of people to buy these trucks. Most of America actually drives trucks. So when you actually go out of LA, I was just driving to work and I was thinking, oh my God, I'm literally surrounded by Teslas now. It's so cool. Like, Teslas are cutting me off now. I'm like, don't you know who I am? You're cutting off the Tesla guy with the Tesla. Come on, Tesla owner.
We used to let each other in.
Yeah. Now it's like a Tesla war in the morning.
Yeah.
Although I'm thrilled to see all the new Model Ys, because they're like everywhere here right now. New ones too, you know. California adoption of EVs is soaring, you know, because nobody wants to pay $6 for gas. Now we're down to $5, I think, or something.
Do you think Elon's right that the Model Y could be the best selling car in the world maybe in a year or so?
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, it's so practical. Like, we just took it on a road trip up to the takeover. I love it. I love road tripping and anything. I can put my whole house in this thing because the front and the back, and there's no engine and the storage. And I take my kids and we take all this junk, you know, and we don't fly anymore because it's just easier to drive in most cases, other than to Hawaii, right? And so, like, we just road trip to so many places. I'm going to San Diego for my brother's wedding this weekend. I can't wait to road trip because it's just so awesome in a Tesla. I go on autopilot. I'm cruising at, 75 miles per hour, smooth as can be. You charge up the hotel. It's free. It doesn't cost me anything. So the Cybertruck will be incredibly impactful. I fear the difficulty because I know it will be very difficult to make this thing, and it will be another one of these Model X situations. So I hope that Elon, when he says the timeline is a year from now, he's factored that in, because we've had many an email where I said Elon needs to take what his timelines are and double them when he says it to the public. So I think that's what they've been doing ever since we started these conversations about 2 years ago. And once in a while, I have to send him a reminder email to double the projections so that Wall Street doesn't hammer them all the time. And that's what he's been doing. So I don't know if he's kind of figured out what I call the Tim Cook, where you always underpromise. You just underpromise, and you always beat. You always beat. So I think, I hope he's using the same thing by saying the middle of next year, because I think they're trying to get the Cybertruck going right now. But I think pressing this thing in one piece with the super metal, no chance it'll be easy.
Now, you were mentioning road tripping, and so you must use superchargers a lot.
Yeah.
Do you think that these other EV brands are going to run into trouble with fast charging, or do you think that this is something that's going to revolutionize in the next couple of years? Because we just have not had that great experience with it every time we've tried to use it with non-Tesla vehicles.
It's a nightmare. In fact, people trying to get me to buy like charging companies and stuff, and I go, these companies suck. I would rather buy the company that services the charging companies, okay? Because the service is constant.
Right.
Because
if they even get called.
Right.
It's like the one in our parking lot. It's a charge point. It's been broken, but it's broken so they can't charge you.
Right.
So people just charge up all day for free. And it's like then they like broke off part of the handle so people wouldn't use it, and people just fixed it, and like that's the demand for charging, right?
Right.
But I'm like, how hard is it? You put like 10 chargers in and you make $1 an hour or whatever they make, And it's like you turn it on and off. Like this should be the easiest business in the world, but it's not. So like Tesla, when they build a charging station, invests a lot more money than Blink or all these other companies because it's part of a bigger ecosystem. It's like Apple. So Apple can lose money in certain areas of their business because they know the App Store is going to rake in like 90% margin. So there's other areas of their business that might not be as profitable, but it's worth it to get people in the phone. You know what I mean? Because they make money on other places. So Tesla's long-term vision always revolved around nobody's going to buy an EV if it's a pain to charge. But it was more than that in that they realized not only was it a way to get adopters, but it was a moat. And that's where the charging thing, what do they call it? The plug in is different for Tesla than other cars because the other car companies. So there was this moment a few years back where Tesla said, why don't you all use our standard? And they are like, F you, Tesla, we're going to do our own thing. We don't want your charging. So they use a different standard. Now in Europe, I think the Tesla cars come with 2 holes so you can use the different standard, but not in the United States, nor do people in the United States have access to Tesla chargers with other cars. That will change eventually because Tesla will make a fortune doing that. So now with the way the climate bill is, there's a lot of incentive for Tesla to do batteries and charging and open that up to the public. So what I actually think is that Tesla will make a fortune selling adapters for other companies. And essentially these other charging infrastructures will exist, but they'll never be that good. Just like if you use an Android phone, it will never be as easy as using an Apple.
Because you're right. It's the better, Tesla's charger is the better one.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing. We pulled up. You don't have to do anything. You just plug in your car. Yeah, I have to get out of my car. I've been driving for 2 hours. It's traffic. I got to eat. My kid, I plug it in. I go get a burger. It's done before I even finish. It's 15 minutes to charge, 20 minutes to charge, you know? And boom, we're off to LA, full tank of gas. Cost me what, $4?
I just wanted to ask you about companies that are upstream or downstream in the EV environment. So like we love certain mining companies like Nouveau Monde, Energy X, because we know that graphite and lithium are going to be things that are needed. Are those things that you have your clients in as well? Or is it what do you think about those?
No, I'm not an expert in mining. So that's part of my problem. And I generally don't like mining. It is not a clean business. There's a lot of exploitation in mining. I tend to, I don't use the term ESG anymore because that means bullshit. But ethically speaking, as an investor, I want to feel good about what I'm doing. And so it's like, some graphite mine in the deeper reaches of the Congo where, 14-year-old kids are digging out graphite with their fingers isn't really the most attractive thing to me. But that said, there's many great producers and I'm learning more and more. One of which was MP here in California. And this guy who runs MP, this guy Jim, he's a really sharp guy. And I said, I don't want anything to do with mines for all these reasons. He says, listen, it's here in California, so you can imagine all the rules we have to follow. It's like on the border of Nevada and California. It's like you're on the wrong side of the border. But it's the largest rare earth mine in North America. It's become crucially important for the manufacturing of EV motors. And they're building some, facilities to process rare earths as well as make these chemicals that are needed for this process. And I love this business. We just recently invested in SQM, which is a Chilean lithium and chemicals miner. They also have exposure to nitrates and things in the fertilizer business, which is also a good business. What we think is this entire commodity food chain is going to be incredibly profitable over time. So from an investment perspective, my goal is to be like the clean energy Rockefeller. So it starts with the rocks and it ends with recycling, ideally eventually having a recycling company like Redwood Materials or something. If Redwood ever goes public, that would be a great company. So recycling will be a great business in 7 years, let's say. And so we are like every little piece. Like I haven't found a charging company I like because I think Tesla is the best exposure for charging. I like SQM, but I also like Almarie. I like Livent. I mean, there's a lot of good companies. It's just, I'm not the best analyst of these companies, to be honest. Like, I don't have any expertise in mining. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. You guys probably know more about these opportunities than I do, you know, in the sense of I'm more focused on technology than the mining part of it, because that's what I'm better at.
Let me ask you, do you think the average person watching today can handle their own finances and investments, or do you think they should seriously consider someone like you, and why?
Well, obviously, I'm the most biased person to ask that question because I have a firm, and certainly I do recommend people use a financial advisor like myself. And it's not because people can't do it themselves. It's actually not that at all. In fact, I think investing's really easy. Like, we don't do anything special here. We invest in the best companies in the world, and we convince you not to sell them when the market goes down. That's the hardest part of my job.
Yeah.
It's called behavioral science. Yep. So this isn't about investing. I hate to tell you, anybody here can buy Microsoft app. You can buy my fund. You can buy the same stocks in my fund. That's not the hard part. The hard part was the last 6 months. The hard part was not selling at the bottom in June. Yep. And people did. And we get call after call after call. And trust me, we have emotions too. So not only I got to keep my emotions positive, I got to keep my team's emotions positive, and I got to keep my 11,000 clients in the game. Because you got to stay in the game to win the game. And the hard part of the game is staying in the game, not the game itself. The game itself's easy. Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, well, Tesla. Come on, guys. Occasionally I find these companies and I have great insights and great information that you might not have because of my connections and this and that. And I might find some great opportunities and maximize those things that you can't. But I wouldn't bet on that as like you can't do it because you don't have that. No, if you buy the SPY, you know, the S&P, and you invest your money over time, you will be a multimillionaire. Just got to wait 20, 30 years, but you will. That's what we teach at my firm. So if you need help doing it. Now, what really the financial advisor helps you with, taxes, for example. Is your money in an IRA? Do you have a Roth IRA? Do you know the difference? Are you using your 401k correctly? Are you getting the matching that you should be getting? Do you even know what that is? Many of our clients now have RSUs and ISOs, and stock options are really complicated for a lot of employees. But if you don't get those, you're never going to have a lot of upside. So a lot of employees will just call us because they're like, can you just look at this? Like, we have no idea what we should do. You know, it's like, and I like, you work here, buy these things. You know, it's like, so there's a lot of advice that if you want to have wealth, like we can just help you with like tax questions. Like we started an accountant firm at my firm because we got so many clients complaining about how dumb their accountants were. And we were like, we should just do this. And we found an accountant, and it turned out he was really dumb. So I fired him. And then, you know, and then fortunately I found another one. And this guy turned out to be great. And it's like we hired the exact thing we didn't want to hire. And now I found this great team. And now we're up to 4 accountants at my firm, and they work nonstop because there's that much need for tax questions and help. But it sucks to overpay taxes because you make a mistake or you're not sure. ISOs, you know, this and that. That's where the financial advisor can really help you. When it comes to investing, it's behavioral mostly. So many of our clients just needs reassurance in these times like now. And boy, in June, I was like getting anxiety. It sucked. It's the worst market in 50 years. And I won't own oil. And I know, you know, it was like the easiest money. And I'm like, I can't push it, you know, and it's like, it's all underperformed. I'll take the heat. The people on the internet bash me. I'm an idiot now, you know, but it comes, you know, it writes itself. So behavioral investing is the hardest part. If you're young, you have the most incentive to stay invested and be aggressive. And as you get older, you have to have a better balance. And so I think if you have the confidence and you put the time in, you definitely don't need a financial advisor. But I think as you get older or as your wealth grows, like we get a lot of clients who are doing them themselves until they have a few million. And then they're like, you know, I'm nervous. You know, it's like the SPY doesn't seem so safe now. You know, I got 3 million in the SPY. And then we start talking about diversification and tax planning and tax loss harvesting and things like that. So I think we as a firm provide a lot of value to our clients, and that's why you should use us. And it's not per se just stock picking. That's a small part of what we do. It's like why I have a lawyer, why I have a doctor. I'm perfect fine health, but if something's wrong with me, the internet is a really bad place to get medical advice. you know? So maybe you don't need us all the time, you know, and we can charge different fees depending on how much you use us, you know, and things like that. When you get old, you don't get another chance. That's the only problem with finance. And the one thing I tell people that is true is that 99% of people don't have $1 million, which means they'll never retire. So if 99% of people fail at this, I know you might think you can do it yourself, and that may be true. But 99% of people are failing. Why not get help?
Well, to that point, if people want to check you out, where should they go?
GerberKawasaki.com. You can just Google Ross Gerber. You can Google our company. You can find us on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, wherever. We're a very visible firm. Everything we do is transparent. You know, we put it all out there for you. There's no secrets. We have 11,000 clients. We work very, very hard for our clients. That's the difference, I think, that I can tell you that's maybe different than other firms, or what you would get if you paid us, is that we work very, very hard to do the best that we can for our clients. And so it's not like we can't always get the outcomes that we want. Sometimes the market goes down, but we work very, very hard at getting the outcomes that for our clients, and we have over time for a long period of time.
Ross, thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you for being who you are. You're not going to invest in oil. You know what you believe in. I love it because you could go where the money is sometimes, but you have your convictions, and that is so rare these days. So thank you for being out there for us. I just love getting your positivity all the time from you. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate you having me too. It's a great show.
Super fascinating talking to Ross. I love talking to him. He's so just pumps me up. There's all sorts of company advice that he's talking about, and investing advice, and where to emotionally put your mind.
Yeah.
It was really fascinating. I love that he gave us the time to do that. So thank you so much for being a part of our community. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. And if you hit the bell notification, you'll be sure to get all the notifications for all the upcoming episodes. So make sure you do that. We'll see you guys next week. Now you know.